Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. This time we're tackling Bitcoin and blockchain, all based on the fascinating research you sent our way.
Looking forward to it.
The goal is to, really get to the bottom of all the hype, see if these technologies truly live up to their revolutionary reputation. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think we can definitely cut through the noise and jargon and help our listeners grasp the core concepts.
Oh, sounds good.
Oh,
Okay, let's dive right in. One thing that really caught my eye from the materials. Did you know that there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins? It's like digital gold, a finite supply.
right. That scarcity is built in, unlike traditional currencies, which governments can print endlessly. It's a key part of Bitcoin's appeal.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. What is Bitcoin really, beyond the price swings and all the headlines? What's the fundamental idea?
Well, at its heart, Bitcoin is a digital currency, a cryptocurrency, if you will, created back in 2009 by the mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto.
Ah, yes. The enigmatic creator, still unknown to this day.
Exactly. No one knows for sure if it was an individual or a group. It adds to the mystique. But that anonymity also speaks to a larger concept, decentralization.
Right. No central bank, no government controlling it.
Precisely. It's a peer-to-peer network, individuals transacting directly with each other. And this is important. Remember, Bitcoin emerged in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis.
Yeah. When trust in traditional institutions was, let's say, shaken.
To put it mildly, people felt like the system was rigged against them.
Yeah.
So this idea of a decentralized currency outside of government control, it resonated deeply.
It makes sense. This idea of taking back control of your own finances, almost a philosophical statement.
Absolutely. And as Bitcoin has grown, it's become more than just a currency. It's an investment, a hedge against inflation for some, even a symbol of rebellion against the status quo.
So we've got this digital currency operating outside the system with a limited supply. But how does it actually work? That's where blockchain comes in, right? This is the part that always makes my head spin a little.
I understand blockchain can seem complex, but think of it as a digital ledger. But instead of being held by a single authority, it's distributed across a network of computers.
So like a shared Google Doc, but for financial transactions.
That's a good analogy. Each transaction is bundled into a block, and these blocks are linked together in a chronological chain, forming an immutable record.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. But what makes it so secure? I mean, couldn't someone just tamper with these blocks?
That's where the magic of cryptography comes in. It's like a complex mathematical puzzle that ensures each block is linked to the previous one in a way that's virtually tamper-proof.
So if someone tried to change a transaction, the whole network would know.
Exactly. Plus, the blockchain is spread across thousands of computers, so there's no single point of failure. That decentralization is what makes it so resilient.
It sounds like this blockchain thing is more than just the foundation for Bitcoin. Could it be used for other things too?
Absolutely. But before we explore those possibilities, let's take a closer look at the engine that keeps Bitcoin running. The proof of work mechanism. Have you heard of that?
Proof of work? Sounds pretty intense. What exactly is the work in this context?
It's all about securing the network. Imagine a global competition, people using their computers to solve really tough math problems. The first one to crack the code gets to add the next block to the blockchain. And for their efforts, they're rewarded with Bitcoin.
So it's like a digital gold rush. But instead of digging for gold, they're crunching numbers.
That's a great way to put it. These miners, as we call them, they're crucial to Bitcoin security, constantly verifying transactions, adding new blocks, making the blockchain virtually tamper-proof.
It makes sense that a decentralized system needs a way to, keep everyone honest. But I've also heard that proof of work uses a ton of energy.
Yeah, that's the trade-off. All that computing power requires a lot of electricity. There have been studies comparing Bitcoin's energy consumption to entire countries.
Wow, that's a serious environmental impact. Does that worry you?
It's a valid concern, for sure, and it's something the Bitcoin community is actively working on. Some are exploring alternative consensus mechanisms that are more energy efficient, while others are focusing on using renewable energy sources for mining.
Sounds like a complex issue with no easy solutions. But at least people are taking it seriously. But setting aside the environmental question for a second, it's hard to ignore Bitcoin's impact on the global economy. It's gone from a fringe experiment to, $1 trillion market.
It's been a wild ride, and that growth has real-world implications. Think about remittances, for example. Sending money across borders is often slow, expensive, with huge fees.
Tell me about it. I remember trying to send money to my family overseas. The fees were outrageous.
Right, but with Bitcoin, you can send money anywhere in the world, almost instantly. with much lower fees. It's particularly impactful in developing countries where people rely on remittances to support their families.
One of the articles you sent talked about Bitcoin being used in Venezuela, where hyperinflation has made their currency practically worthless.
Exactly. When a country's economy is in crisis, Bitcoin can provide a stable alternative, allowing people to protect their savings, make transactions, without losing everything to inflation.
So it's like a financial lifeline. Pretty powerful stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it's not just individuals taking notice. Big companies are starting to invest in Bitcoin too.
Right, absolutely. You mentioned Tesla earlier. They made a huge splash when they bought a bunch of Bitcoin. And we're seeing hedge funds, institutional investors, even some banks getting involved.
Tesla's move definitely made headlines, but does that mean Bitcoin has gone mainstream? What about the concerns with, volatility and regulation?
Well, it's true that Bitcoin is still volatile. The price can swing wildly, which can be good for profit, but it also carries a lot of risk. And as for regulation, it's still a bit of a wild west out there. Governments are still figuring out how to approach it.
So Bitcoin has its pros and cons, empowering individuals, financial stability in uncertain times, but also volatility, regulatory uncertainty. And we can't forget about the energy consumption issue.
It's definitely a complex picture. No easy answers. But there's another challenge we haven't talked about yet. Scalability. Bitcoin's network can only process a limited number of transactions per second, which can lead to delays and higher fees when the network gets congested.
So it's not ready to replace Visa or MasterCard just yet. But didn't I read something about a Lightning network that's supposed to speed things up?
You're right. The Lightning Network is a promising development. It's a layer 2 solution built on top of the Bitcoin blockchain, allows for faster and cheaper transactions.
So it's like a separate highway for Bitcoin, bypassing the traffic jams on the main blockchain.
Exactly. It's one way developers are trying to make Bitcoin more practical for everyday use, more efficient,
It sounds like there's a lot of innovation happening. But even with all these efforts to improve security and speed, I still hear about Bitcoin exchanges and wallets getting hacked.
That's an important point to bring up. While the blockchain itself is extremely secure, the platforms where you store and trade Bitcoin exchanges and wallets can be vulnerable. It's crucial to choose reputable platforms and to take your own security precautions, strong passwords, two-factor authentication.
So it's like anything else online. You have to be smart, protect yourself. Can't just rely on technology to do all the work.
Exactly. Awareness, education, responsible practices. Those are essential in the Bitcoin world. But despite the challenges, the future of Bitcoin blockchain is still full of potential. What are your thoughts on where things are headed?
Well, it's tough to say for sure, but it does feel like we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
What trends are you seeing that could really shape the future of this whole thing?
Well, when it comes to Bitcoin specifically, there's a lot of work being done to make it more scalable and sustainable. So faster transaction speeds, lower fees, and less reliance on that energy-intensive mining we talked about.
So improving the engine, making it run cleaner and more efficiently?
Exactly. And while those technical improvements are happening, we're also seeing broader adoption. More people are using Bitcoin for everyday purchases, remittances, even long-term investments. It's becoming more integrated into our lives.
Yeah. Actually, one of the articles you sent mentioned a coffee shop in my neighborhood that accepts Bitcoin. Might have to check that out, see it in action.
There you go. It's becoming more mainstream, and it's not just individuals. Businesses are starting to use blockchain for things like supply chain management, making their operations more transparent, more efficient. It's changing the way they work.
It really does sound like blockchain could revolutionize how we do business. The possibilities are kind of overwhelming.
It has that potential for sure. And even governments are exploring its use for things like digital identity, voting systems. It's really reaching into all corners of society.
It's pretty incredible to think how far this technology has come in such a short time. But stepping back for a moment, we've talked a lot about Bitcoin, but you mentioned earlier that blockchain has applications beyond cryptocurrency. What else is out there?
Oh, absolutely. One of the most exciting areas is Ethereum, which introduces the idea of smart contracts.
Smart contracts, right? Those always sounded futuristic to me. Can you remind me how those work again?
Well, imagine a contract that automatically enforces itself. No need for lawyers or middlemen. It's all coded into the blockchain. For example, think of a vending machine. It only dispenses a snack after receiving payment. That's a simple illustration of a smart contract in action.
So cutting out the middleman, automating trust. That's a powerful concept.
Mm.
One of the articles mentioned using smart contracts for real estate transactions, streamlining the whole process, making it faster, more secure.
Exactly. And it goes way beyond real estate. Think about supply chain management, insurance claims, even voting systems. The potential is huge.
Wow. It's mind-blowing to think about all the possibilities. It's almost like blockchain is creating a new set of rules for how we interact and trust each other in the digital world, changing the very fabric of how things work.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. It's fundamentally shifting our ideas about value ownership, even governance. It really makes you think about, well, everything. And that brings us to a question for you and for all our listeners out there. Something to ponder.
I'm all ears.
If blockchain really does reshape how we trust and interact online, as it seems to be doing, what implications do you see for your own life? How might it affect your work, your relationships, your understanding of the world?
Those are some big questions. It's clear we're just at the beginning of this journey, and where it leads, well, who knows? But it's definitely an exciting time to be paying attention.
Absolutely. The future of blockchain is being written right now,
Yeah.
and we all have a role to play in shaping it responsibly. So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep asking those tough questions.
Well said. And that's what I love about these deep dives. We explore a complex topic, gain new perspectives, and walk away with maybe even more questions than answers. But that's the beauty of it all, isn't it?
It is. The journey of discovery is just as important as the destination.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Bitcoin and blockchain. Until next time, stay curious, everyone.